In a remote pasture, a shepherd diligently tends to his flock of sheep when suddenly a shiny red BMW makes its grand entrance. Behind the wheel is a young man adorned in an impeccable Armani suit, luxurious Ferragamo shoes, and polarized sunglasses. With a sense of arrogance, the driver leans out of the car window and propositions the shepherd, "My good shepherd, if I can accurately determine the precise count of sheep within your flock, would you in turn grant me one as a reward?" The shepherd gazes at this well-dressed stranger, contemplating the offer, and eventually consents to the challenge. In a show of technological prowess, the driver proceeds to connect his cell phone to a laptop, linking it to a GPS device. He initiates a remote body heat scan of the entire area, sending emails and engrossing himself in an intricate process. After a series of calculations, he generates a comprehensive 100-page report from the portable printer resting in his glove compartment. With a triumphant grin, he turns to the shepherd and proclaims, "You have precisely 1,478 sheep in your flock." The shepherd, seemingly unfazed, responds, "Indeed, your feat is impressive. As promised, you are entitled to select one sheep from my flock." The man chooses one of the animals and loads it into his luxurious car. The shepherd, however, has one more trick up his sleeve, as he inquires, "Would you be willing to engage in a challenge, my dear guest? If I can accurately discern the nature of your profession, would you kindly return my four-legged companion?" The young man, intrigued by this turn of events, eagerly agrees, "You have piqued my curiosity. Go ahead, take your guess." The shepherd delivers his verdict without hesitation. "You, dear sir, are a McKinsey consultant." In astonishment, the man responds, "You've hit the nail on the head. How on earth did you come to such a conclusion?" The shepherd grins and elaborates, "It was no mere guess, for I have observed your actions closely. You ventured uninvited into my pasture, seeking compensation for knowledge I already possessed. You answered inquiries I had not even posed, demonstrating an ignorance of my trade. Now, if you would be so kind, I kindly request the return of my loyal canine companion." The guys were on a bike tour, and there was a peculiar issue with their friend Mick. His notorious snoring had made him an undesirable roommate. To address this predicament, they decided it wouldn't be fair to subject one of them to Mick's deafening snores for an entire night, so they agreed to take turns. During the first night, one of the guys bunked with Mick and emerged in the morning with a disheveled appearance, hair tousled and bloodshot eyes. Concerned, the others inquired, "What on earth happened to you?" He replied, "Mick's snoring was so thunderous that I ended up just sitting there watching him all night." The next evening, it was a different friend's turn to brave the snoring symphony. When he joined the group for breakfast, he sported the same haggard look, hair standing on end and bloodshot eyes. His comrades couldn't believe their eyes, exclaiming, "What in the world happened to you? You look absolutely dreadful." He explained, "You see, Mick's snores were so intense that they practically shook the roof. I, too, spent the night just watching him." On the third night, the responsibility fell upon Bill, an experienced and rugged biker. The following morning, he joined his friends for breakfast, looking bright and rejuvenated. They were baffled and asked, "Bill, what's your secret? What happened?" Bill cheerfully responded, "Well, when it was time for bed, I took Mick under my wing, tucked him in, gave him a friendly pat on the backside, and planted a goodnight kiss on his cheek. Mick was wide awake and watched me all night." A horse and a chicken found themselves in Farmer Brown's yard one day. The horse, feeling hot, decided to cool off by lying down in a big mud puddle. He took a nap, but upon waking up, realized he had sunk to his haunches and couldn't get up. "Help me, chicken! I'm stuck! Please, go find Farmer Brown and ask him to use the tractor to pull me out," pleaded the horse. Chicken hesitated and replied, "I can't do that. Farmer Brown is out plowing the back 40, and it would take me all day to reach him. But don't worry, I'll figure something out." Chicken then had an idea. He hopped into Farmer Brown's wife's BMW and backed it up next to the horse. Chicken quickly fashioned a harness and attached it to the horse. He tied the harness off to the car's frame, put the BMW in gear, and managed to free the stuck horse. "Thank you so much, Chicken. If you ever need anything, I've got your back," the horse assured him. Time passed, and the incident was eventually forgotten. One sunny day, Chicken was feeling hot and decided to cool off in a massive mud puddle, only to find himself stuck up to his wings, unable to escape. Panicking, Chicken cried out, "Help me, horse! Get the BMW!" Horse responded, "No worries, my friend. I've got a plan." He straddled the mud puddle and said, "Grab onto my tail." Confused, Chicken asked, "You want me to squat?" Horse chuckled and said, "No, not that. Just hold on to my tail and we'll get you out of there." So Chicken followed Horse's instructions, holding on to his tail with his beak, and Horse managed to pull him out. And the moral of the story is, if you're as well endowed as a horse, you don't need a fancy BMW to impress the ladies. I'll see myself out. A police officer pulls over an elderly woman for speeding as she's driving her husband to a doctor's appointment. The officer approaches the vehicle and politely explains that he stopped her for speeding. She turns to her husband and asks, "What did he say?" Her husband, a bit hard of hearing, replies, "He said he stopped you for speeding." The officer proceeds to ask the elderly woman for her driver's license. She turns to her husband again, asking, "What did he say?" Her husband, trying to keep up, replies, "He wants to see your driver's license." The woman hands her license to the officer, who, while examining it, realizes that she's from his old hometown. Feeling a sense of connection, the officer shares, "I remember that town. It's where I had the worst romantic experience of my life." The woman looks at her husband, somewhat puzzled, and asks, "What did he say?" Her husband once more responds, "He says he knows you." And there you have it, the small town connection with a humorous twist. Once upon a time, in a world that felt a little less hectic, a man woke up one morning with a renewed sense of purpose. He was determined to take better care of himself and embark on a path to healthier living. The stars seemed to align perfectly as he made these noble resolutions, ready to face the world with newfound vigor. The man's ambitious plan consisted of 4 primary goals: smoking and drinking less, adopting a healthier diet, and embracing a more active lifestyle through exercise. With his head held high and hope in his heart, he stepped out of bed, ready to conquer the day and make a change for the better. As the hours ticked away, the man faithfully adhered to his self-imposed regimen. He resisted the urge to light up a cigarette, savor the taste of alcohol, and instead opted for a glass of refreshing water. The kitchen shelves displayed vibrant fruits and vegetables, signaling the start of his dietary transformation. He even donned his workout attire and enthusiastically set out for a brisk walk. However, the world had other plans for our protagonist, and it wasn't long before his resolve began to wane. The weight of his ambitious goals pressed heavily upon him, and he realized that taking care of oneself was no easy feat. 4 hours ago, he had been a different person, younger, perhaps a tad more naive, and filled with a hopeful spirit that had now begun to fade. In the midst of his journey to healthier living, the man came face to face with temptation. The allure of a cigarette's soothing embrace was almost too much to resist. The idea of a fine glass of whiskey called to him, and the vision of a delectable, indulgent meal danced before his eyes. In the end, his noble aspirations seemed to dim with each passing moment. In the span of mere hours, the man's enthusiasm had begun to wane, and he realized that the path to healthier living was filled with unforeseen challenges and temptations. While he had initially woken up with a heart full of hope, he couldn't help but reflect on the days when he was younger, perhaps a bit more foolish, and possessed the unwavering optimism of youth. And so, the man found himself at a crossroads, a pivotal moment where he had to decide whether to persist in his quest for healthier living or revert to his old ways. As he stood on the precipice of choice, he couldn't help but yearn for those earlier hours when his determination was unyielding and hope seemed boundless.